Memorial tent over there, guys. All right.
He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
What's happening right now?
Well, as you heard, the 911 call, the video footage, and all of the videos now are out regarding the Austin Metcalf and the Karmelo Anthony incident that happened on April 2nd, 2025. We're going to get into that. Welcome to my podcast, Wokeitis with Harry Eve 9. I am your host, Harry Eve 9, and today I'm dropping my first podcast.
Come through, I think I need you. I swear it's time to keep these feelings to myself. Now you're the one I'm thinking of. My higher ground, my rocket love. For gravity, I'd rather stay up here. So we can get away from cheap beach views on another day. All I wanna hear is the images that we play. Sit right next to you. How I feel about you, you wish away. You do what you want, I just wanna get away.
Thank you guys for joining me once again. I am Harry Eve 9. Today, my podcast is focusing on Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony. In a sense, both of these young men, children, actually teenagers, they both lost their life. Austin lost his life in the physical, and Karmelo lost his life in terms of his freedom. As you guys may be aware, Karmelo was convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison, and he is not in prison right now. He filed an appeal, and that appeal hasn't been heard yet. But the judge in the case, Judge John Roach, released the videos, the 911 calls, everything today on Juneteenth. Pretty ironic, considering that in Galveston, Texas, is where the slaves did not know that they were free in 1865, and they had been free since 1863. And I think it's ironic that he would that he would release his videos and everything on today when it could have been released days ago, even the day of the trial, as fast as the trial moved. But today I'm going to talk about 5 things that is very important. And the reason that I won't get too deep into things is because the transcripts have not been released, and you have people reporting from the right that I don't believe that they are being objective. I think they were being biased. And there's also people reporting from the left. And once again, the same thing. I think they're being biased and they're not giving us the actual truth. And because there were no cameras inside of the courthouse, we really have to go by who we think is the best person that's going to be objective. And I really can't go by just that because I need the transcripts. So whenever I get the transcripts, I will do another show where I will do another podcast. I'm sorry, where we will discuss it and I will read the actual transcripts. But the number one thing with this case that I want to tackle is race in politics. From the very onset of this brutal incident, it's been about race and it's been about politics, and it's been on both sides. Karmelo Anthony's family hired civil rights attorneys, and they have a civil rights uh, spokesperson who is definitely not a good representation to be speaking for them. It's just in my opinion. And then you have the right, who also was using race in politics. As you remember, there was a judge that reduced Karmelo Anthony's um, bond from $1 million to $250,000. Her name is Angela Davis. I'm sorry, Angela Tucker is her name. She received death threats. Her family received death threats. They doxed her home. They swatted her home, and all of these things simply because she decreased uh, his bond. And she's a Republican. And these are Republican MAGAs. This is what they're doing, and they're going really, really to the deep end. And I believe that the truth is not being highlighted because so many people are emotions are high, and for whatever reason, people have taken a political side with this situation and race. And I think that's the biggest issue that's happening with this case. And to be honest with you, I honestly believe that on both sides of the aisle, the left and the right, I believe these people are so indoctrinated by their political parties, by their religious beliefs, by their political beliefs, that they honestly stopped being decent human beings a very long time ago.
When private information goes public, it is a problem. In this case, a judge's private information. Add to that a case that has made national headlines after a Frisco student allegedly stabs and kills another at a track meet. Collin County told us earlier this month about a possible case of doxing involving the judge, Angela Tucker, who lowered the defendant Karmelo Anthony's bond.
Karmelo, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Allowing him to bond out and go into house arrest.
The fact that she and her family are being made to endure what they are as a result of being doxxed because she simply did her job as she was supposed to, it sickens me and it angers me.
Scott Becker was once a judge in Collin County for 8 years in the 219th. Now he's an attorney, and he tells us what we've been reporting for a while, that cases are assigned to judges by random.
I wonder if the controversy is because Judge Tucker is an African American and the defendant is also African American. I wonder if the judge who made that decision, if they looked like me, if there would be the same amount of outrage and conspiracy theories out there.
The second thing I would like to discuss is Karmelo Anthony's charge. With both of these kids, with both of these families, my heart goes out to both families. Because like I said, in a sense, both of these young men lost their lives. One lost his freedom and one lost his life in the physical. But I do believe that Karmelo was overcharged in the sense that the case was brought before a grand jury, and the grand jury charged him, came back with a charge of first-degree murder. No criminal negligent homicide, no manslaughter, no nothing. Just throw him away at 17. Here's a kid. He's the captain of the football team. He's the captain of the track team. His 3.7 grade point average. He works 2 full-time jobs. He doesn't have any criminal background. He's never been in trouble before. And it's almost like they just didn't see anything redeemable with this kid, in my opinion. He was convicted, as you all know, of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison. He has to do at least 17 and a half years before he's eligible for parole. But just because he's eligible for parole does not mean that he will be granted parole. So literally, this is literally most of his adult life. He will be behind bars. And I'm not having any more sympathy for him than I do for Austin, because Austin's lost his life. His family is grieving as well. These are two families, in my opinion, that should have came together and healed each other. But because of the spokesperson that Karmelo Anthony's family have, this Minister Dominique something, that was stopped. When Jeff Metcalf came to the press conference to speak with Karmelo Anthony's family, he said he wanted to pray with them. I think that was a missed opportunity. And I think their family could have got together and they really could have healed each other, and maybe some sort of a deal could have been worked out in terms with the family going to the district attorney's office and getting a deal that would be reasonable to both parties in a family. Because it's not that I'm saying that that Karmelo should not spend any time in jail. He should absolutely spend time in jail because he did take somebody's life. You know, whether it was, he said it was self-defense, although Austin was unarmed. I don't see how that would be self-defense, but I am not Karmelo. I don't know what he felt, what type of danger he believed his life was in. But according to the law in Texas, it did not qualify for self-defense or even staying your ground. But I wish this family would have came together and would have worked this out together, and now they're at odds, and it's getting real ugly in the media. They mud swinging. It's horrible.
You had mentioned a few times that you had forgiven the suspect for what
That's correct.
He did.
I do.
But we just informed you about these documents, and
That doesn't change anything. Okay. This has to do with me and God. God teaches us in the Bible. He talks about forgiveness. He also talks about revenge. Not for me to seek. God will take care of it. Karma, I believe in it. It's very unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion for every human being. This is not, I want to make this very clear. This is not a race issue. This is not a black and white issue. I don't want someone stepping up on a soapbox trying to politicize this. I don't appreciate some of the remarks I've seen online that people say there was this fight and they don't know, they weren't there. I know the truth.
The third thing I would like to discuss is ineffective counsel. Karmelo Anthony's attorney name is Mike Howard. And I don't believe he prepared for the case. And I say that because Karmelo is only 17 years old, as we all know, the brain is not fully formed until a young person, period, is between the ages of 24 and 25. And in some cases, in terms of a boy or a male brain, their brain usually is even further behind. It could even be 27 or 28 by the time his brain is fully formed, that he understands exactly the consequences of what he's doing. That doesn't mean that at 17 he doesn't know right from wrong. It just means that he doesn't fully understand the consequences of his actions. So what I didn't understand throughout this case was that Karmelo Anthony's attorney, he called no experts. He did not call a psychologist to speak upon the behavior. He didn't even call the coroner's office to find out exactly how things went. I don't even think he cross-examined anyone, literally. He didn't object to anything. The only thing he did object to was the fact that there was not a black person or a black American on the jury, which I don't even understand how the family was okay. This is the South. I'm born and raised in the South. We love our races to be upfront and let us know exactly who they are. But we're not stupid to the point where we're going to have a jury of non-black people and not put up a fuss about that. Something should have been done about that at the very beginning. Now, of course, they had Asians, Hispanics, Middle Eastern, but those are not black Americans. Those people identify literally as white. And that was one of the things that really I couldn't understand how the family didn't have a problem with that. Karmelo Anthony's father, he goes on the Breakfast Club and he said, well, yeah, I seen that this was what it was. And I had a problem with it. But then I thought, well, everything is going to be okay. I don't know, something about his parents, Karmelo's parents. I don't know if they're just delusional or if they're really just, I mean, with all due respect, I don't know if they're just slow, like they just don't get it. Like, I don't think they understand the dangers, the consequences of what's going to happen with their son. And so how can they prepare him? It's kind of scary situation that's going on there. But the fact that the attorneys did not call any experts, not a psychologist, he didn't call a school counselor as a character witness. He didn't call Karmelo is on 2 different sports. How could he not call those coaches? He's an honor roll student. You're telling me there were no teachers that could speak on this kid's behalf? And I think that right there is going to be one of the things I believe, from what I'm understanding. I'm not an attorney and I don't pretend to be one. But what I'm understanding is that this attorney, he is almost like he blew the case, like he intentionally blew. I'm not saying that he did. This is just my opinion. But it's like he didn't even try. There was a young guy who testified, from what I'm understanding, on Karmelo's behalf. And this young guy, was like, well, we're not friends like that. And then he as well said, well, I think Karmelo provoked this fight or this incident that went down. And then they tell me when the attorney asked the young man, have we ever spoke before? Oh, we spoke just outside in the hallway during the, I spoke to you before we walk in the courtroom. And I'm thinking this happened 14 months ago. How did there's two attorneys. How in the world does Karmelo have two attorneys and neither one of them spoke to this young man who's supposed to be his friend, who is the person who called him into the tent where everything went down, and they never ever had a conversation with them? It's just bizarre. So I have two clips that I got off X, and it's Nate the attorney, who used to be a former prosecutor, and Hotep Jesus. The clip was shared on X, and Nate the attorney really broke down where Karmelo Anthony's attorney failed, especially by not putting him on the stand, and how basically if he had been on the stand, that he could have still had a self-defense claim, but it could have been a imperfect self-defense claim. I'll let them explain.
I would have really strongly suggested Karmelo take the stand. The reason
I said
why
the
is
same thing. Yeah.
in all self-defense cases, it always comes down to you. Why did you do what you did? And if you put me on the stand, I need to explain to people why I felt the way I felt. What now? Everybody else can feel the way they felt, but you need to hear from the person in the seat. I was sitting down. These two 6-foot people came over to me. And I'm looking at people. Everybody's yelling and screaming. I didn't know what to do. I put my hand in my bag because I was afraid that something was going to happen. Then one of the guys touched me and I just reacted. That's a totally different story from Karmelo Anthony. Now, you can say whatever you want on cross, but that's reasonable based on what happened. And you can say, okay, he overreacted. And now, instead of getting a murder conviction, you get a manslaughter conviction. You got a 4.0 GPA, captain of the football team, captain of the track team, all this other stuff. This is a great kid who made one bad mistake. I'd rather the jury go into the back, understand going into with that, than what they went in with, which is essentially this kid just stabbed somebody for no reason, and that was it. Like, so you understand it? Having the jury go back there with that understanding would have, I think, led to a better outcome. And a lot of times, to be fair, in these small towns, all the attorneys know each other.
Right.
Like when I was a DA, I knew all the defense attorneys. I knew all the hot ones. I knew all the old guys who've been doing it for 50 years who come and want to talk to you. So you get a relationship with these people. And I think sometimes that's a bad thing because you get too familiar. And I think, unfortunately, this attorney may have just been too familiar with everybody and thinking, hey, I'm just going through the process, instead of being more of an advocate for his client, understanding the nature of this particular case.
Okay, so here is Attorney Nate in the second clip explaining the imperfect self-defense and how Karmelo could have received less time had his defense attorneys actually put on a defense.
You spoke two different ways, right? You said in one way it was murder, but if you put up a defense, it was manslaughter, right? It could be deemed as manslaughter.
In Texas, because I looked this up, there are two ways to get to manslaughter.
Okay.
Even though they got murder, there are two ways to get to manslaughter. One, you get the charge of manslaughter. In other words, you send a jury in the back, you say, is it murder or is it manslaughter? And I think that's where the arguments would have helped. But there's a second way to get to manslaughter, and that's through what's known as imperfect self-defense. So perfect self-defense is exactly what it is. You defended yourself, you checked all the boxes, you're good to go, you didn't commit a crime. That's perfect self-defense. Imperfect self-defense is exactly what happened in this case. Somebody didn't reasonably believe that, somebody acted disproportionately.
Right.
Somebody pushed you, you stabbed them. Somebody did something. So you were acting in self-defense, which I believe Karmelo Anthony was. When somebody grabs you, you can respond to that grab with a push. You can respond to a slap with a slap. So he is acting in self-defense.
Right.
But imperfect self-defense says, well, if you overreact to it, then we'll convict you of murder, but your sentencing will only be manslaughter. So they kind of give you two bites at the apple. And I'm assuming, but their lawyer didn't. All right, so during the trial, he tried to argue for self-defense, and then like that last, he fell on the knife, like, Karmelo, the Metcalf fell on the knife. That was like so stupid. But then in the sentencing phase, That's where the argument goes now to imperfect self-defense. Hey, you convicted him already, but he made a mistake. This is obvious a mistake. Why would a kid who has a 4.0 GPA, who's got all these college offers, who's got all these scholarship offers, who have a whole life, in any other situation, this is one of the top tier kids. Why would this kid do this? And even if he did, well, why would he do this randomly? Obviously, he acted irrationally in that moment. Don't destroy his life. He's 17. He didn't, he didn't do it in a perfect way.
Right.
It was imperfect, but we can mitigate this into, let's say, a manslaughter. So don't ruin this kid's life because he was a star. He made a mistake. And I think that's where the lawyers failed him because they didn't make that argument in sentencing. They put his mom on, she cried, and that was it. That was ridiculous. You need to make the jury understand that this isn't some gangbanger.
Right.
This was a good kid and who made a mistake. And that turns a 35-year sentence into maybe a 5 to 7 year sentence.
Now, my fifth and final point, I will see address the rumor of the gifts and GoMe account that the Karmelo Anthony family received, their money they raised. Well, on April 2nd is when we know of the tragic incident with Austin and Karmelo. On April 16th is when a social media person on X put out a post saying that Karmelo Anthony's parents had bought an $850,000 home, a Cadillac Escalade. They were having luxury products being delivered to their home continuously throughout the day, and that they were using the gifts and GoMe money to live some luxury lifestyle. The post went viral. And of course, there's our Republicans in there with their MAGA hats and everything, whatever. And then Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who's also a Republican, he shared the post on his account and it went extra viral. The Daily Mail then did a story about it. It was the first outlet that I seen did a story about it. It was the Daily Mail. So we have all of these rumors circulating online. X is going crazy. It's beginning to get more and more into race, more and more into politics. It's the left against the right. Nobody's using their common sense. Literally, nobody who's engaged in this this back and forth of this debate that they were having. It would tell anyone that if Austin passed away on April 2nd, and Karmelo Anthony's family started this GoFundMe sometime after, I think on April 3rd or 4th. And his now the 16th. That's literally 2 weeks. Who can buy a home, do a closing, get approved by the bank, everything in 2 weeks? Is this not happening? And at the time, the family had only raised $50,000 to $100,000 at the time. Cadillac Escalade itself is about easily $100,000 car. And the price of the home, it was the value of the home, $850,000. But that doesn't mean that that's what they purchased it for. Now, mind you, once we started doing research and everything, clearly on the mother's Facebook page, the husband bought the Cadillac Escalade for her as a gift in 2023. 2 years before the said incident. The house, they were already living there. It's in the picture. The dad is driving a Lexus car. That's all in this picture from 2023, 2 years prior to this. And anyone with common sense who was even thinking, how are these people living in this neighborhood if there are these people who you think is some poor, uneducated Black people who raised a thug? Because they were trying to make Karmelo out to be a thug, some street kid who's just out here running around stabbing people. Now, it got so bad that TMZ interviewed the co-founder of Give Send Go, Jacob Wells. And Jacob said the money had never been withdrawn. There's nobody touched the money. The money's just there. People are suddenly donating to the cause. And on the on the GoSendMe, it specifically said that the money was going to be used for several things, not just Karmelo's legal defense. It's going to be used for security, counseling for their family, attorney fees, relocation fees. And people still donated because they wanted to help this family. Now, when people donate to anybody else who commits crimes, who doesn't have the same skin tone as Karmelo, these people, their funds are going up to $2 and $3 and $4 million. But they had a problem with this Black family getting donations and sympathy and empathy for their son. And if that wasn't ridiculous enough, now they're saying that the mother had a nose job. She took the money, spent the money to get a nose job. Clearly, you can take a look at this lady's face. There's from 2023 is the first picture of her with Karmelo. 2025, when she's at the news conference. And then 2026 with her interview with the Breakfast Club. Take a look at her nose. It's the exact same size. In one picture, she's smiling. In the other two, she's not. But you can clearly see that her nose is the exact same size in all three pictures. The reality of it all is that America does not have sympathy or empathy for Black boys and Black men. And I think when Karmelo Anthony committed this crime, he was automatically deemed a thug. And it's precisely the reason, because they don't have sympathy or empathy for Black boys. This is why they can put our Black men. This is why they can put them on trial for their own murders. Although that's not what happened in this case. He is actually the perpetrator. And he killed a white boy. And that in itself is what sent America out and showed its ugly head once again. Now, Karmelo Anthony's parents are college educated people. This is an upper middle class family. His parents are college educated. His father has a degree in business. His mother has a degree in nursing. She's a stay-at-home mom by choice. But she is a professional, trained, and licensed nurse. The father was not working at a car dealer as some car salesman. This man was the general manager, the general sales manager. And now the father doesn't have a job. He's not able to support his family now, due to doxing and people constantly calling his job, calling corporate office and everything like that to get this man fired. Eventually, he was fired. His wife is a stay-at-home mom. So how are these people supposed to live? Folks are calling the GoFundMe, trying to get that canceled, doing everything they can. The GoFundMe reached up to I think it's about $650,000 now of money that they never even touched. They not only want this family, they not only want Karmelo to suffer for the crime that he committed, and he absolutely committed the crime. There's no denying that. But they want his family to suffer as well. Again, this is the type of thing that is happening far too often for people to keep saying that America is not a racist country. It happens too often, and people keep showing who they are. And this was the other cost that the family said that they were getting donations for. That was not just for Karmelo's legal defense. These people have to live too. And if they can't get a job, the mother and the father, their faces plastered all over everywhere. If they're calling Drew is the father, if they're calling his job to get him doxxed, calling corporate to get him fired. And of course, corporate, they don't want to have to deal with all of the backlash and everything that's going along with that, with the case. So they trying to save their company. Of course, they're going to let go him, which is what they did. So where can this family work? Are they supposed to just be homeless now? Again, it goes back. There's no sympathy and there's no empathy for Black men and Black boys. I've seen Black and white people reaching out to Jeff Metcalf and his family, giving them their condolences and how horrible a situation this is, because both these kids, and these were children, both boys are 17 years old. Tragic event for both families. Both families are suffering, but it's only the Black family that they want to absolutely, basically be destitute. They want to take everything away from them. They're not supposed to have nothing. And that's the thing that really, really makes people, it should make people anyway, open their eyes and stop pretending that this case from the absolute beginning was not about race and politics, because it was from the very beginning and from both sides. Both sides. And that concludes my very first podcast episode. I thank you guys for listening. If you like what you hear, subscribe to my channel, like my posts, comment. I talk back. And share if you like. Thank you guys so much.
Go, live and go.
Mm-hmm.